Hello. I'm afraid you're going to have to make your way through what is more or less a building site. You've come to find me in the Temple of Peace. That's great. Do be careful as you step. We've got some boards over the trenches. You see how small the house is, and we're just having a little extension at the back so that we can have somewhere to eat, a dining room, and we're still in the middle of that. So I retreat to the Temple of Peace. Look, there's my green man waiting for a new home. Anyway, come along. Now, though everything else in the house is smaller, as you can see, the Temple of Peace is actually a little bigger, so there's an improvement. Come along. My wife has planted these beautiful roses. We've got Mariner and Happily Poet's Wife, and I've been able to affix this time properly on the outside this beautiful, beautiful plaque that my mother made. I fixed it on the first anniversary of her death, and she didn't physically make it herself, but she designed it and told them what to put, and the olive for peace, and the ink, and the blotting, and the pen, and the book, because she knew that I would be making my poems here. And actually, if you come in, you'll see that more or less all those things are here. Not quite the quill, but other things all set on my desk, and I'm beginning to arrange it as it should be. I've also got this lovely tree of life that my friend Kathy gave us. That's a really beautiful thing. So have a seat. Let's see if we can... Actually, I think before, when you came to the Temple of Peace, it was so small we couldn't both get in. But anyway, cheers, by the way. The great thing is, you know, the thing you're anxious about, the thing I'm anxious about when I move house, as I've often done before, is will my muse ever find my new address? You know, am I going to be able to write in this new place? And I'm happy to say that she does seem to have found her way here, just as you have. So, here, look, here's my manuscript book, and I've actually filled it. I'm starting a new one. I've written quite a bit, and I've carried on basically with my Arthurian stuff, because that's my main task now. And I thought perhaps if you're sitting comfortably, I might read you the next episode. You may remember we'd begun what I called the adventures on the way. They've all set off on the quest, and now we're following each night, and we followed Galahad, and we had the adventure last time, you remember, of how he came to get the silver shield. And having been granted the shield by the mysterious white knight who rides away and disappears into thin air, he's about to set off. But now we have the adventure of Sir Melius and the elfin knight. I've made him an elfin knight. Mallory, who's over here, doesn't tell us too much about this next thing, except that a fierce figure came out of the woods and attacked Melius. You'll hear the story in a minute. In some ways for good reason. But I felt this was a moment when fairy and elvendom might be coming into the story, so I brought that out. And it gave me a chance to riff on my favourite ballad of all, which is Thomas the Rhymer. You remember, you know, see you not yon bonny, bonny road that lies across the ferny brae. That is the road to fair elf land where you and I this night mun go. Anyway, we'll see all that. So this is the story of how the squire who'd been following him longs to be a knight. So here we go. Sir Melius and the elfin knight. I've just put this off from the manuscript onto print. So Galahad turned to his steed and called him soft and low, thinking to mount and ride full swift, bearing the shield as holy gift, feeling the spirit's lilt and lift, the spirit's force and flow. But even as he turned to mount, he heard a sudden sound. A young man strode into the glade, all eager-eyed and unafraid, as he unsheathed his bright sword blade and laid it on the ground. The young man knelt by Galahad and cried, "Grant my request. I am King Bagdemagus, squire. O grant me now my heart's desire, to follow you through flood and fire and join you in your quest. I beg you now to make me knight. I come of high degree. I am the King of Denmark's son, that through steep seas and floods have come to seek in Arthur's court the sum and height of chivalry. Then Galahad looked on the squire with tender charity. You are well born, good Melias, but better than some high noblesse is gentle grace and tenderness, wherein the greater serves the less in all humility. A knight must be a mirror clear of love and courtesy. Then, as the squire knelt on the grass, he raised the sword and signed the cross and said, Arise, Sir Melias, arise and follow me. And so they mounted up and rode with no map for their quest. Our quest is not as we propose, but shall be as our Lord dispose. We'll trust to all he may disclose, and in his promise rest. Not far along the forest ride, they found an old stone cross. It marked a parting of the ways. Two paths within the leafy maze, to left and right led different ways. They paused there at a loss. Then on the cross they read these words: Choose now, adventurous knights. Who takes the left must prove his power, to win with might or quail and cower. But he who trusts not his own power must pass unto the right. Oh, let me ride, said Melias, and dare the left-hand way. Since you have granted me my spurs, now let me quell all doubts and fears. The prize is for the knight who dares. Let me pursue that way. 'Twere better, said Sir Galahad, you rode not in that way. If danger lurks, I might get through. I fear what might become of you. Yet to your heart you must be true. What does your true heart say? Young Melias made no reply, but turned his eager steed. He longed to prove his strength and skill, to make his name by force of will, to win the glory, feel the thrill, and be a knight indeed. God speed your choice, said Galahad, and may my fears prove wrong. Take the adventure as God sends, but lightly hold all that he lends. Let his deep mercy shape your ends, and in his strength be strong. Sir Melias rode through the woods. He rode 2 days and more. And on the 3rd day he espied a clearing in the woodland ride, and fair pavilion opened wide, with all good things in store. By the pavilion's silken side a table fair was drawn. Delicious meats were set thereon, and by the table stood a throne, and on the throne a golden crown, all glittering in the dawn. Sir Melias dismounted there and marvelled at the sight. Surely these goods are my reward, who dared to take the left-hand road. The best things that this world affords come to the bravest knight. And saying this, he took the crown and set it on his head, and, sitting on the magic throne, as though it were indeed his own, he gorged his secret feast alone, and ate the fairy bread. But even as he ate his fill, he heard a solemn voice. Who dares despoil the bower of bliss, and take unasked what is not his? Great kings have died for less than this. You've willed your will and wished your wish. Now you abide your choice. And he beheld an elfin form, a living woodland wight. Green was his steed, and green his greaves, his chainmail linked of silver leaves. He rode out from the forest eaves, and cried, Stand fast, false knight. Set down that crown which is not yours, and now defend yourself. O Lord, protect your new-made knight, Melias prayed, and soon alight his war-horse he forced down his fright, and charged the fearsome elf. They let their horses run full fast, and each the other smote. The elf struck hard, and Melias through hauberk felt the lancet pass, and fell down to the fair green grass with blood upon his coat. The strange elf stooped, took back the crown, and turned towards the woods. It was no knightly deed, he said, on finding the fair table spread, to seize what was for others laid, and spoil folk of their goods. King Arthur made us better cheer when he adventured with us here, with elfin blade and shining spear, keeping the paths from evil clear, in courtesy and godly fear. He learned at last with us to hear the wisdom of the woods. With that he rode back to the wood. Melias groaned in pain, when by good fortune Galahad came riding lightly to the glade, to bring young Melias his aid and find him once again. Alas, alas, said Galahad, and who has wounded you? Thank God you've come, cried Melias. I bleed to death on this green grass. My folly has brought this to pass. I would die clean and true. So bear me to some chapel now, or where some hermit dwells, that I may clean confess my sin, and feel I have not lived in vain, and make my peace with God again, whose judgment burns and heals. It shall be done, said Galahad, but who has wounded you? And then they heard a voice on high, from out the leaves it seemed to cry, Hold off, Sir Knight, for it was I, and now I come for you. And lo, he came out of the wood, the elfin knight so fell. Strong as a tree and stern and dark, his features seemed as wrinkled bark. He loosed an arrow to the mark, but Galahad stood strong and stark. His good shield served him well. Now at your peril come to me, the Red Cross Knight soon spoke. Each took to horse and charged full fair, and either smote the other there, and hit their targets full and square, and Galahad's own trusty spear pierced the bark skin and broke. Each picked themselves out of the grass and eyed each other well. The elfin knight plucked out the spear and said, There is no quarrel here. Young Galahad, you fight full fair. I know you now for Joseph's heir, and I will cast no spell. But your young friend deserved his fall. He strayed on fairy ground. I've lost my place. He strayed on fairy ground. This feast and this pavilion fair, and golden circlet rich and rare, are for our queen beyond compare, and Oberon her lord to share. Hark how their horns do sound. You mortals take the paths that run to heaven or to hell, but not the bonny, bonny way that lies across the ferny brae and leads to fair Elfland or way where all my kindred dwell. Your care and quest are not for us, our path is otherwise. But go with peace in heart and mind, with biddings from the hidden wind, with blessings from all elven kind, to where your true quest lies. A hermit dwells not far from here, who'll give this young man rest, and healing of his wounds and heart, and words of wisdom he'll impart. There you may leave him, and then start in earnest on your quest. Galahad tended Melias, and gently took him thence, and all his fears he did assuage, and kept him in life's pilgrimage, and brought him to the hermitage against the forest fence. The hermit, who'd once been a knight, gazed well on Melias, and searched his wound, and softly said, Take heart, young man, be not afraid. I am ordained to be your aid, and heal you by God's grace. And in the space of 7 days, and 7 days, and 7, you'll heal in body and in soul. Experience will teach you well, and love himself will make you whole, and fit your soul for heaven. And Galahad stayed 3 full days to comfort Melias. And when those days were at an end, as Melias began to mend, he bade farewell to his young friend, and set off at swift pace. So there we go. I've written that more or less since I got here, so the muse has found me, and that's a great relief. And I'm glad you found me too, and all the best, and here's to meeting again sometime soon.